welcome to the Q30 News Weekly Digest. I'm Amanda Hoskins with your national headlines. The man charged with abducting the missing University of Virginia student is now behind bars. Hannah Graham was last seen getting into Jesse Matthew Jr.'s car in Charlottesville, Virginia, more than 2 weeks ago. The 32-year-old man was found 1,300 miles away by Texas police. Police say a suspicious person was called in, and when the deputy arrived, he was said to have been pitching a tent on the beach. After questioning the man and running his plates, the deputy connected the dots. At this time, Matthew is being brought back to Virginia, but the search for Hannah Graham still goes on. And the nation's first African-American Attorney General has resigned. Eric Holder is one of President Obama's longest-serving cabinet members and the third longest Attorney General in history. The decision comes as no surprise. It was clear his intentions were not to stay 2 full terms. Holder has played a key role in protecting voter rights and ending racial discrimination in the justice system. No announcements yet on who will be his replacement, but Holder says he will wait until the Senate picks his successor before officially stepping down. And have you heard of Bendgate? It has to do with the release of Apple's iPhone 6. And it has people talking. The new phones are much larger than the past iPhones, but some say they also bend, a feature not planned by Apple and one that has the tech giant scrambling. Many customers have been posting videos and pictures claiming their new iPhone bent while in their pocket. Apple has yet to respond to the issue, but according to the Washington Post, a recall isn't likely. And now, for the top headlines around the world, let's go to Mike Beck.
Thanks, Amanda. Numerous European countries are joining the fight against ISIS in Iraq. France, Britain, Belgium, and Denmark are among the latest nations to join the U.S.-led coalition against the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. The decision to join the coalition was made shortly after more news about ISIS's latest terrorist attacks against civilians. Lawmakers in Belgium and Britain both nearly unanimously voted to send air forces to Iraq. Earlier this week, the U.S. commenced airstrikes against ISIS in Iraq and Syria. The U.S. was joined by a coalition of Arab nations, including the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar. While Britain has committed air forces to be deployed to Iraq, British lawmakers have not yet come to a consensus yet on the situation in Syria. According to the CBS News, some British lawmakers are trying to get the government to take action in Syria. In related news, previous reports made by Iraq's prime minister about a potential terrorist plot against New York and Paris subways has not been confirmed. According to U.S. intelligence, the reports of an imminent ISIS attack on transit systems are currently not credible. According to CNN, 2 U.S. intelligence officials stated at this point there is no indication that the New York subways are threatened. New York Mayor Bill de Blasio even took a subway ride and then told reporters that information about the terrorist plot is not credible at this time. He went on to confidently reassure people to continue to use the subways. And President Obama is warning the UN that the response to the Ebola outbreak needs to be swifter. Obama urged the United Nations that the recent Ebola epidemic is a major international concern and other nations cannot sit by idly. Obama's appeal to the UN comes in wake of the U.S.'s response to the outbreak last week. To control the epidemic, the U.S. sent 3,000 military personnel and civilian aid. According to the Center for Disease Control, this year's Ebola epidemic is the worst in history and is also the first major Ebola outbreak in West Africa. Guinea and Liberia are particularly hardest hit countries. Despite the U.S. aid, Obama stressed that the U.S. efforts alone were not adequate to stop the outbreak. And that is your latest international headlines. Back to you, Amanda.
That's the Q30 News Weekly Digest. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Q30 News for the latest news in and around campus. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.